Hello TV fans and welcome to Lost in the Reel. Today I'm going to be covering the highly anticipated second season of HBO's The White Lotus. So, is this new batch of episodes able to live up to the hype? Let's talk about it. The White Lotus is written and directed by Mike White. Season 2 stars F. Murray Abraham, Michael Imperioli, Adam DeMarco, Theo James, Ben Sharp, Aubrey Plaza, Megan Fahey, Haley Lou Richardson, and Jennifer Coolidge. Season 2 follows a new group of vacationers, along with fan favorite Tanya McQuoid, as they jet to a White Lotus property in Sicily and settle in temporarily amongst its inhabitants. The first season of HBO and Mike White's The White Lotus was my favorite television show, new or returning, from last year. It was the most bizarre, uncomfortable, and compelling piece of entertainment I saw in 2021. And it became something that I just could not stop thinking about. While I originally thought that audiences would be too turned off by its unlikable characters and cringe-inducing moments of awkwardness, it became a surprise hit. Thus, here we are just a little over a year later, with a new season, new unsavory characters, and a new romantic destination in Italy. So, how does it compare with the first? Was it able to live up to my lofty expectations? Unfortunately, I found myself extremely disappointed in the first 3 episodes, and then luckily it does pick up exponentially in its 4th episode. Though I can't help but feel like White should have taken more time to cultivate this new installment. HBO provided the first 5 episodes of the season for early review, so there are 2 remaining installments that I haven't yet seen. But I am so grateful that they didn't just give us the first 3, because I would have said that this was a complete sophomore slump if they hadn't. Whereas in the first season, creator Mike White sets up his large ensemble of characters so effortlessly and quickly, this new season takes way too much time in doing so, and feels like it is going nowhere because of it. Not to say that these characters aren't interesting, but I just never knew why I should even care about them in the first place. White was able to pull off the seemingly impossible with the first season and take these extremely flawed, unsympathetic people and make us feel for them, whether that was love or hate, by putting the audience in their shoes. Though their bad behavior was unquestionable, he made us take a hard look at ourselves through the actions of these characters. With season 2's cast, I never felt, and still don't by episode 5, as if I have connected to them on any kind of emotional level. That is, besides Jennifer Coolidge's returning Tanya McQuoid, of course. But even she feels like more of an afterthought this time around. It's not until she meets a group of gay men on the island, led by expat Quentin, played by the phenomenal Tom Hollander, that we see Coolidge start to come alive. When the casting came out and I saw that Aubrey Plaza was going to be in this, I immediately thought that it was a match made in heaven. The actress, known for her deadpan sensibilities, was the perfect choice to plunge into this painfully awkward material. And I think she is one of the best parts of the season. Though I can't help but feel like Mike White is holding her back in some way. And that goes for pretty much the entire cast, wherein I don't feel like there are any real standouts. The writer-director let his cast run wild and let out their primal animalistic instincts in the first season. Yet every character here comes off a little too restrained and distant for my liking. One of the main themes of The White Lotus was taking its characters and referencing the peeling of an onion. White slowly peeled back the layers of each of his characters to reveal deeper insight into who they were until we reached their core, which could also be considered their id. And that is what made the show such fascinating and absorbing entertainment. But as of right now, all of these characters still feel pretty surface level. And while White has finally begun his excavation of these characters in episodes 4 and 5, I'm not sure if it's a case of too little too late. There is also a lackadaisical and almost random approach to the storytelling here, where everything felt more purposeful in the first go-around. In the first 3 episodes, foundations of the storyline are built, and then White seems to trail off in a different direction. Almost as if he is so intoxicated by the locale that he gets lost in it rather than taking advantage of it. 5 different storylines are all going on at once that of course begin to interconnect. There's Tanya and her new husband, played by John Grease, reprising his role from the last season, who are constantly bickering, and McCoy's assistant, who she forces to hide in her room. There's 3 generations of men from a single family that are trying to reconcile with the father's infidelity, and then a group of 4 going on a couples trip where one of them has run into newly found fortune. There's 2 local escorts who find themselves caught up in everybody's messes and might be the cause of them. And finally, the frigid manager of this White Lotus and her staff, who all despise her besides one. I think the most brilliant part of the plotting is taking these 2 local escorts and embroiling them in all of the tourist problems. To me, this is what is keeping the narrative cohesive and afloat. The storyline that is working the least is the one following the resort staff of the White Lotus, whereas that was one of the highlights of the first season, with the incredible Murray Bartlett at the forefront. Getting to see the service industry perspective, with the staff having to deal with all of these vain and needy tourists, was one of the main comedic catalysts of the show, and one of the things that made it so special. But here, the manager and her staff are more of a bothersome diversion than anything else. My biggest complaint, though, is that the murder at the center of it all seems so inconsequential. Though the show starts off just like in the first, with the foreshadowing of the discovery of a dead body and the possibility of more, I haven't really thought about who the victims might be at all. And I think that has to do with the fact that I care for the characters a lot less this time around, and that this plot device feels more like an obligation than an integral part of the overall narrative. Lastly, one of the best parts of season 1 were the anxiety-ridden tableside dinners that happened in every episode. During every meal, some insane confrontation or excruciating conversation would occur, and it made the series unbearably tense. To top it all off, it was all elevated by the unforgettable tribal score that remains lingering in my mind rent-free. And while there are many tableside meals in this season, the skin-crawling thrills that came from them are noticeably absent. Yes, some of them are uncomfortable to watch, but I was never on the edge of my seat hanging on every person's word this time around. And I'm not gonna lie, I was really looking forward to that happening again, and was really let down that it didn't. Although Mike White did say that this season would be a lot different, it's hard to not compare the two. The first so powerfully and boldly explored ugly, brutal truths about human nature. Yet I feel like this season is struggling to say anything at all. So while I do think this is a pretty big step down, I also think that there is still a lot to love here. The dialogue is as sharp as ever, the situational comedy is gold, the performances are outstanding, although the characters less so, the score is fresh and unique, and the on-location shooting is mesmerizing. I also cannot express enough just how much this season improves in its 4th and 5th episodes, which are finally able to define a clear direction, which makes me think that White is going to finish it off strong. And because of this, I would still recommend checking out this season. Although I would suggest you temper your expectations, especially if you were, like me, a huge fan of the first. So I will be giving The White Lotus Season 2, Episodes 1 through 5, 3.25 Viagra pills out of 5. Unfortunately, with huge expectations going in, this second season is a bit of a letdown. With a more laissez-faire approach, less engaging characters, and a severe lack of bite, Season 2 of The White Lotus might not win over any new fans. But it still has enough razor-sharp wit, strong performances, and compelling topics of conversation to recommend. Thank you so much for watching Lost in the Reel. What are your thoughts on The White Lotus Season 2? Are you a bit disappointed by this season so far? Or do you think it's on par? And who is your favorite new character and why? Sound off in the comment section down below. And until next time, my friends, take care.